What if the ground beneath your feet hid more than just dirt and stone? What if it held the silent whispers of kings, warriors, and lost civilizations waiting centuries for someone to uncover their secrets? From the moment humans first laid their dead to rest, burial sites became more than just graves. They transformed into time capsules, sealed with rituals, treasures, and sometimes warnings. Picture this, a tomb untouched for thousands of years, its entrance sealed with spells to keep intruders out, its walls painted with stories meant to guide the dead into the afterlife. Now imagine cracking that seal and stepping inside where the air hasn't stirred in millennia. The chill you feel isn't just the temperature, it's the weight of history pressing in around you. Across the globe, these enigmatic tombs defy time, guarding mysteries that even modern science struggles to explain. Some were built to honor the divine, others to conceal the forbidden. There are vaults filled with gold enough to tempt any treasure hunter, and chambers so cursed they've left archaeologists trembling. Take Tutankhamun's tomb, discovered nearly intact, its treasures glittering under the flicker of lantern light, yet shadowed by the legend of a pharaoh's vengeance. Or the Terracotta Army, standing in silent ranks for over 2,000 years, each soldier's face uniquely carved, as if they might awaken at any moment. These aren't just relics of the past, they're puzzles, daring us to unravel their stories. Today, we're venturing into the shadows of history to uncover 25 of the world's most enigmatic tombs and burial sites. From the bone-lined catacombs beneath Paris to the sunken necropolises of forgotten empires, each holds a piece of humanity's grand, unspoken narrative. Some will astonish you with their ingenuity, like the pyramids, engineered with precision that still baffles us. Others will unsettle you with their darkness, secret crypts where the dead were said to whisper to the living. This isn't just a tour of ancient graves, it's a journey into the heart of what it means to confront the unknown. So steel your nerves and steady your curiosity. The past has waited this long to be heard, and its secrets won't give themselves up easily. Standing like a silent sentinel on the edge of the Sahara, the Great Pyramid of Giza has baffled humanity for millennia. Built as the eternal resting place of Pharaoh Khufu over 4,500 years ago, this monumental tomb is the last surviving wonder of the ancient world, and for good reason. The precision of its construction is staggering. Each of the 2,300,000 limestone blocks weighs between 2 and 15 tons, fitted together so tightly that not even a blade of grass can slip between them. But how the methods used to transport these stones across the desert remain one of history's most enduring puzzles. Some theories suggest ramps coiled around the pyramid's rising tiers, while others propose elaborate sled systems lubricated with water. Yet no single explanation fully satisfies modern engineers, and then there are the secrets still locked inside. In 2017, scientists using advanced muon imaging discovered a mysterious void, a hidden chamber stretching nearly 100 feet above the Grand Gallery. What purpose did it serve? Some speculate it could be a hidden burial chamber untouched by robbers. Others believe it might be a structural buffer designed to relieve pressure from the pyramid's immense weight. Or perhaps it's something far more enigmatic, an undiscovered repository of artifacts or inscriptions that could rewrite our understanding of ancient Egypt. But the Great Pyramid's mysteries don't end there. Its alignment with celestial bodies is unnervingly precise. The four sides face true north, south, east, and west with a margin of error smaller than a fraction of a degree. Did the ancient Egyptians possess astronomical knowledge rivaling modern tools? Even the pyramid's dimensions seem to encode mathematical constants like the golden ratio and pi, sparking debates about whether its builders had knowledge beyond their time. Then there's the haunting absence of Khufu himself. Despite the pyramid's grandeur, no pharaoh's mummy or lavish burial goods have ever been found within its chambers. Was it all an elaborate decoy, or does Khufu's body still lie hidden, waiting in some undiscovered crypt beneath the desert sands? Every new scan, every excavation, peels back another layer, but the Great Pyramid refuses to surrender its deepest secrets. It stands as a testament not just to human ambition, but to the tantalizing gaps in our knowledge. What else lies concealed within those ancient stones? Only time, and perhaps a future explorer, will tell. Khufu's reign was as monumental as the pyramid bearing his name, a time when Egypt's old kingdom reached dizzying heights of power and ambition. Ruling for approximately 23 years during the Fourth Dynasty, he commanded a civilization capable of marshalling tens of thousands of workers, not slaves as often misrepresented, but skilled laborers who took pride in their sacred task. These were farmers, artisans, and builders who came from across the Nile Valley during the annual flooding season, when fieldwork was impossible. They were housed, fed, and even medically treated in nearby worker villages, their bones revealing healed fractures, proof they were valued, not expendable. The pyramid wasn't just a tomb, it was a national project, a symbol of unity between earth and heaven, pharaoh and people. Yet for all this effort, Khufu's sarcophagus lies empty, a gaping mystery in the heart of the king's chamber. The granite coffer, rough-hewn and lidless, shows no signs of ever holding a mummy. Was the pharaoh buried elsewhere? Some suggest his true resting place remains hidden within the pyramid's labyrinth of passages, perhaps behind the newly discovered voids. Others argue the pyramid was never intended as a burial site at all, that it served as an initiation chamber or even a celestial timekeeper. The absence of hieroglyphs inside adds fuel to these theories. Unlike later pyramids, Khufu's walls are eerily silent, devoid of the spells and prayers typically meant to guide the pharaoh's soul. Then there's the pyramid's celestial choreography. Its air shafts align with specific stars, one pointing to Orion's belt, associated with Osiris, god of the afterlife, and another targeting Thuban, the pole star of Khufu's era. Were these shafts cosmic pathways for the pharaoh's spirit, or did they serve as astronomical markers, helping priests track the cycles of time? The precision is uncanny. Even the pyramid's location mirrors the constellation Orion's belt when overlaid on a map of the Nile, hinting at a grand celestial blueprint. Alternative theories spiral further into intrigue. Some researchers propose the pyramid encoded advanced knowledge, mathematical constants, geodesic measurements, even predictions of Earth's dimensions. The pyramid's base perimeter divided by twice its height yields pi to an astonishing accuracy. Coincidence or intentional design? Meanwhile, fringe theories whisper of lost technologies or extraterrestrial influence, though mainstream scholars dismiss these as fantasy. What's undeniable is this: Khufu's pyramid transcends mere architecture. It's a riddle carved in stone, demanding we reconsider the limits of ancient ingenuity. Perhaps the greatest testament to Khufu's legacy isn't what we've found, but what we haven't. Every unanswered question keeps his name alive, millennia after his dynasty crumbled. The pyramid endures not just as a tomb, but as a challenge daring us to unravel the mind of the king who dreamed it and the civilization that made it real. Howard Carter's hand trembled as he chiseled the final hole into the sealed doorway, the flickering candlelight revealing what no living soul had seen in over 3,000 years. "Can you see anything?" his patron Lord Carnarvon whispered from behind him. "Yes," Carter replied, his voice choked with awe. "Wonderful things." That moment in 1922 marked the most extraordinary archaeological discovery of the century, the nearly intact tomb of the boy king Tutankhamun. Unlike the ransacked graves of other pharaohs, this one lay hidden beneath the rubble of workmen's huts in the Valley of the Kings, its treasures untouched by tomb robbers. Gold gleamed in every direction, statues of gods with inlaid eyes, a chariot disassembled for the afterlife, even a dagger forged from meteoritic iron. The innermost chamber held the piece de resistance, a sarcophagus within a sarcophagus, nesting like golden Russian dolls, until the final lid was lifted to reveal Tutankhamun's iconic golden death mask, its serene face immortalized in lapis lazuli and quartz. But the discovery came with a shadow. Just months after the tomb's opening, Lord Carnarvon died suddenly from an infected mosquito bite, sparking global hysteria about a mummy's curse. Newspapers sensationalized the deaths of others connected to the excavation, though Carter himself lived another 16 years. Modern scholars dismiss the curse as coincidence fueled by media frenzy, but the superstition endures, feeding our fascination with ancient retribution. The real intrigue, however, lies not in myth but in mystery. Tutankhamun ascended the throne at age 9 and ruled for barely a decade before his untimely death around 18. For years, historians speculated he was murdered, a victim of dynastic power struggles. CT scans in 2005 revealed shocking details: fractures in his skull, a shattered leg bone, even evidence that his chest had been crushed post-mortem. Was it an accident, a chariot crash, or something more sinister? Further analysis uncovered genetic evidence of malaria and a clubbed foot, suggesting the young king was frail, perhaps reliant on canes found in his tomb. The scans also exposed something unsettling. Tutankhamun's mummy had been hastily prepared, drenched in unguents that later hardened into a black resin, effectively gluing him to the bottom of his coffin. This, combined with the tomb's unusually small size, more like a noble's burial than a pharaoh's hints at a rushed interment, was his death unexpected. A political cover-up, even his name was erased from many official records, as if someone wanted him forgotten. Perhaps the greatest enigma is what wasn't found. Unlike other royal tombs, Tutankhamun's lacked papyri or extensive inscriptions, leaving his reign shrouded in silence. The treasures, while breathtaking, may have been hastily repurposed from others, including a sarcophagus possibly meant for his stepmother, Nefertiti. Every artifact whispers of a turbulent era, a boy caught in the crossfire of Egypt's religious revolution and counter-revolution, his burial both a celebration and a concealment. Today, Tutankhamun's legacy endures not just in gold but in questions. His tomb remains a time capsule of a fractured dynasty, offering glimpses of opulence and intrigue in equal measure. Modern technology continues to peel back layers, revealing not curses, but the fragile humanity behind the golden mask, a teenage king whose short life and mysterious death still captivate the world. What secrets remain locked in his DNA or hidden within the tomb's overlooked cracks? The boy pharaoh may yet have more to tell. Buried deep beneath the earth in China's Shaanxi province lies an army frozen in time, not of flesh and blood but of clay and fire. The terracotta warriors stand in perfect formation, row upon row of soldiers, chariots and horses, each face uniquely sculpted with expressions as varied as the real men they were modeled after. This staggering display of power and artistry was created for China's first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, a man so obsessed with immortality that he spent much of his reign preparing for the afterlife. Discovered by accident in 1974 by farmers digging a well, the site has since revealed more than 8,000 warriors, yet this is only the beginning. The heart of the mausoleum, the emperor's central tomb, remains sealed, protected by layers of earth and legend, its secrets untouched for over 2,000 years. What makes this tomb so extraordinary isn't just its scale, but its intricacy. Ancient texts describe a subterranean palace filled with treasures, replicas of rivers flowing with mercury to mimic the empire's waterways, and constellations of pearls embedded in the ceiling to mirror the night sky. Modern scientific surveys have detected unusually high levels of mercury in the soil above the tomb, lending eerie credibility to these accounts. Could the ancient chronicles be true? Did Qin Shi Huang's architects really create a microcosm of his realm, complete with liquid metal rivers? The implications are staggering, not just for archaeology, but for our understanding of early Chinese technology and ambition. Then there are the traps. Historical records speak of crossbows rigged to fire automatically at intruders, hidden pitfalls, and other deadly mechanisms designed to deter tomb raiders. While none have been found yet in the excavated sections, the warnings have been enough to give archaeologists pause. The central tomb's unopened state isn't just due to reverence, it's a logistical and ethical challenge. How do you safely excavate a site that might be both chemically hazardous and physically booby-trapped? The warriors themselves are a marvel of individualism. No two faces are alike, suggesting they were modeled after real soldiers in the emperor's army. Some scholars believe each figure was a portrait capturing the diversity of Qin's forces, from young recruits to grizzled veterans, their hairstyles and uniforms denoting rank and ethnicity. The level of detail is astonishing: fingernails, wrinkles, even the tread on their shoes rendered with precision. It's as if the emperor sought to take his entire military into the afterlife with him, an eternal guard for his journey through the underworld. Yet for all we've uncovered, the tomb's greatest mysteries remain locked away. Why was Qin Shi Huang so determined to replicate his earthly power in death? Was it fear of oblivion or a belief that he could rule even in the next world? The answers may lie in the unopened burial chamber, where the emperor himself is said to rest preserved in mercury, encased in jade, surrounded by treasures we can only imagine. Until technology advances enough to explore without destroying, the heart of this necropolis will keep its secrets. The Terracotta Army stands watch, silent sentinels of a tomb that refuses to surrender its emperor or its truths. 5,000 years before Stonehenge or the pyramids, a tomb was built in the rolling green hills of Ireland, so precise in its alignment with the cosmos, it still functions flawlessly today. Newgrange isn't just a burial mound, it's a Neolithic masterpiece, its white quartz facade glittering in the sunlight like something out of myth. But step inside and the real magic reveals itself. A narrow stone passage stretches 60 feet into the earth, leading to a cross-shaped chamber where the bones of the dead once rested. The walls are etched with spirals, diamonds, and zigzag symbols so ancient their meanings have been lost to time. Yet the tomb's most breathtaking feature isn't its artistry, but its engineering. Every year, at dawn on the winter solstice, sunlight pierces through a small opening above the entrance known as the roof box. For 17 precious minutes, a beam of golden light creeps along the passageway, flooding the inner chamber with warmth. This isn't an accident. The tomb's builders calculated the angle of the rising sun with such precision that even modern astronomers marvel at their skill. Was this a symbolic gesture, a way to reunite the dead with the life-giving sun during the year's darkest days? Or did it serve a practical purpose, marking the turning of the seasons for an agricultural society? Theories about Newgrange's true function are as varied as its carvings. Some argue it was primarily a burial site. Excavations uncovered cremated remains of at least 5 individuals, their ashes placed in stone basins. Others see it as a temple, a place of ritual where the living communed with ancestors or deities. The tomb's location is no accident. It overlooks the Boyne River, a sacred waterway in Celtic tradition, and sits amid a complex of similar mounds, suggesting a ceremonial landscape. Then there's the astronomical angle. The solstice alignment is too exact to dismiss as mere symbolism. Could Newgrange have functioned as an ancient observatory, its priests tracking celestial events to predict agricultural cycles or eclipses? The spiral carvings might even represent celestial phenomena. Some researchers see them as maps of the moon's phases or diagrams of cosmic harmony. One of the most haunting mysteries is the identity of its builders. The tomb predates the Celts by millennia, constructed by a Neolithic society that left no written records. How did they move the 200,000 tons of earth and stone without metal tools or wheels? The logistics are staggering. The largest stones, some weighing over 40 tons, were transported from miles away, their surfaces meticulously carved with patterns that shimmer in flickering torchlight. Newgrange's rediscovery in the 17th century only deepened the intrigue. Local folklore spoke of it as the fairy mound of the Brug, a gateway to the other world. When archaeologists began excavating in the 1960s, they found the roof box completely blocked, sealed shut for reasons unknown. Restoring it to function was a leap of faith, a modern attempt to reconnect with a 5,000-year-old intention. Today, the solstice event draws crowds from across the globe. Though only a handful win the lottery to stand inside the chamber at dawn, the experience is humbling. To witness that shaft of light is to stand in the footsteps of people who saw the cosmos not as distant stars, but as a living force woven into their daily lives. Newgrange doesn't just challenge our understanding of prehistoric technology, it whispers of a worldview where death, astronomy, and spirituality were inseparable. What other secrets lie buried beneath those ancient stones? Until the next solstice dawn, the tomb keeps its silence. The Valley of the Kings stretches like a scar across Egypt's desert, a labyrinth of tombs carved deep into the cliffs where pharaohs hoped to cheat death. This was no ordinary cemetery, it was a necropolis designed for gods in human form, each burial chamber a portal to eternity. But for all its grandeur, the valley tells a story of decline as much as power. Early tombs, like those from the 18th dynasty, were hidden with almost military precision, their entrances sealed and camouflaged. By the time of Ramses II's reign centuries later, the valley had become crowded, its secrets easier to plunder. Tomb robbers, some possibly workers who built the very crypts they looted, tunneled through stone to strip gold, jewelry, and even the mummies themselves, often leaving behind nothing but shattered sarcophagi and echoes of curses. Then came the discovery that rewrote the valley's modern narrative. In 2006, archaeologists working near Tutankhamun's tomb noticed a subtle depression in the rock. What they uncovered was KV63, the first new tomb found in the valley since Tutankhamun's in 1922. Unlike the boy king's treasure-stuffed chambers, KV63 held no mummy, just 7 coffins, 28 storage jars, and a tangle of embalming materials. Some scholars believe it was a mummification workshop, a staging ground for the afterlife. Others argue it might have been a cache, a last-ditch effort by priests to hide royal burial goods from thieves during a time of chaos. Either way, KV63 proved the valley still had secrets to surrender. The contrast between Tutankhamun's pristine tomb and others like KV5 couldn't be starker. KV5, the resting place of Ramses II's many sons, is a warren of 120 chambers, the largest tomb in the valley. But where Tutankhamun's treasures dazzled, KV5's corridors stand eerily empty, stripped bare by ancient looters. Only fragments remain: a fist-sized Ushabti figure, broken pottery, a single sarcophagus lid. The sheer scale of KV5 hints at Ramses' ambition, a dynasty carved in stone meant to endure forever. Yet its emptiness speaks volumes about the vulnerability of even the mightiest rulers. Why did Tutankhamun's tomb survive untouched while others fell to robbers? Luck played a role. Workers' huts from later dynasties were built directly over its entrance, hiding it from view. But there's another, darker theory. Tutankhamun's reign was brief, his death unexpected. His burial might have been rushed, his tomb smaller and less conspicuous than those of greater pharaohs. In a cruel twist, the boy king's obscurity became his salvation, his treasures overlooked while the valley's grander monuments were ransacked. Today, the Valley of the Kings is a palimpsest of glory and loss. Every undisturbed corner holds potential, whether it's an overlooked chamber or a jar of embalming linen that could rewrite history. Modern technology like ground-penetrating radar continues to scan the bedrock, searching for voids that might signal yet another undiscovered tomb. Perhaps one day, another intact burial will emerge from the shadows, waiting to tell its story. Until then, the valley remains a puzzle, a testament to pharaohs who sought immortality and the thieves who nearly stole it from them. On a quiet hillside overlooking England's River Devon, a discovery so extraordinary unfolded in 1939 that it rewrote Anglo-Saxon history. The Sutton Hoo ship burial was no ordinary grave. It was a ghostly imprint of a vanished world, where wood had long since rotted away, leaving only dark stains in the sand to outline a royal ship nearly 90 feet long. As archaeologists carefully brushed away the soil, they uncovered not just a burial, but a time capsule from the early 7th century, packed with treasures that glinted under the English sun. Gold bucklework adorned with intricate interlacing patterns, a gleaming helmet with a face mask that seemed to stare across the centuries, and a purse lid studded with garnets, each piece whispering of a warrior culture straddling myth and history. But the real shock came when they reached the ship's center. Where they expected bones, they found only shadows, phantom outlines of bodies pressed into the sand, now known as sand bodies. These eerie imprints suggested the deceased had decomposed so completely that only the earth remembered their forms. Some believe acidic soil dissolved the remains, while others theorize the bodies were deliberately dissolved with lye as part of a funerary rite. Either way, these ghostly silhouettes add to Sutton Hoo's unsettling aura, as if the dead left their mark not in flesh but in the very land itself. The question of who merited such a lavish send-off has sparked debate for decades. The leading candidate is Raedwald, King of East Anglia, a ruler powerful enough to defy even the legendary Northumbrian King Edwin. Historical records describe Raedwald as a pagan who dabbled in Christianity, a duality reflected in the grave goods. Silver spoons inscribed with Christian names alongside symbols of Woden, the Norse god of war. Yet not all scholars agree. Some argue the grave belongs to Aethelher, Raedwald's successor, who died in battle. Others propose it could be an entirely forgotten king, his name erased by time. The burial itself was a spectacle of maritime symbolism. The ship, dragged nearly a kilometer uphill from the river, was both coffin and passport to the afterlife, a vessel meant to carry the dead to the realm of legends. The treasures buried with it weren't just gifts, they were diplomatic tools. Byzantine silver bowls, Frankish coins, and Scandinavian-style jewelry reveal a kingdom deeply enmeshed in European trade and politics. Even the famous helmet, its eyebrows forming the wings of a diving raven, echoes designs found as far away as Sweden, hinting at shared warrior cults across the North Sea. Perhaps the most poignant find was the great gold belt buckle, its surface etched with 13 snakes, their bodies twisting into complex knots. Weighing over 1 pound of solid gold, it wasn't just jewelry, it was a statement of power meant to be seen glittering in torchlight during royal feasts. Yet for all its grandeur, the buckle's back hid a hollow compartment, possibly holding a sliver of wood or a relic, a secret even the grave couldn't reveal. Sutton Hoo forces us to reconsider the so-called Dark Ages. This wasn't a time of chaos, but of sophisticated artistry, far-flung connections, and kings who wielded symbols as deftly as swords. Every object whispers of a world where myth and reality blurred, where ships could sail into eternity, and where a ruler's legacy might fade from records but endure in gold, iron, and the unforgetting earth. Who truly lies beneath that mound? The sand bodies keep their silence, but the treasures speak volumes. Imagine a tomb so magnificent it earned a place among the 7 wonders of the ancient world, not for its hidden treasures or eerie curses, but for its sheer architectural splendor. The mausoleum at Halicarnassus wasn't just a burial site. It was a defiant statement in stone, rising 140 feet into the sky like a wedding cake of marble and myth. Built around 350 BC for Mausolus, a Persian satrap who ruled modern-day Bodrum in Turkey, this wasn't the project of a grieving widow, but of a sister wife with a point to prove. Queen Artemisia II, as much a strategist as she was a ruler, commissioned the tomb after her brother-husband's death, overseeing its construction with a blend of cultural audacity and raw political savvy. The result, a fusion of Greek, Egyptian, and Lycian styles so breathtaking it gave us the very word mausoleum. But here's the twist: Artemisia didn't live to see it finished. She died just 2 years after Mausolus, her own ashes reportedly mixed with his in an act of macabre devotion. Yet the tomb's legacy endured for centuries, surviving wars and dynasties until a series of earthquakes in the Middle Ages finally reduced it to rubble. For years, its scattered stones were pilfered by crusaders to build fortresses, its sculptures buried under layers of dirt and forgetfulness. Then, in the 19th century, British archaeologist Charles Newton unearthed the site, shipping its most striking relics, including colossal statues of Mausolus and Artemisia, back to the British Museum, where they still stand today. The mausoleum's design was revolutionary for its time. A stepped pyramid crowned by a 4-horse chariot statue, its walls adorned with friezes depicting epic battles and mythical hunts. Each tier represented a different cultural influence. The base echoed the tombs of Lycian kings, the middle columns celebrated Greek aesthetics, and the soaring roof evoked Egyptian grandeur. But the true marvel lay in its sculptures. 4 of antiquity's greatest artists, Scopas, Bryaxis, Leochares, and Timotheus, were each assigned a side, competing to outdo one another in craftsmanship. The surviving fragments reveal muscles straining in marble, drapery that seems to flutter in an eternal breeze, faces frozen between grief and triumph. Artemisia's role in all this can't be overstated. In a world dominated by men, she leveraged grief into power, using the mausoleum to cement her dynasty's legitimacy. Ancient historians like Pliny the Elder wrote of her pouring Mausolus ashes into her wine and drinking them, a tale likely exaggerated, but one that underscores her reputation as a woman who blurred the lines between loyalty and obsession. The tomb became her weapon, a monument so ostentatious it dared rivals to forget neither her nor her husband. Today, visiting the site in Bodrum is bittersweet. A few crumbled foundations and a hole in the ground mark where the wonder once stood. Yet in London, the British Museum's Hall of Halicarnassus offers a ghostly reassembly. Mausolus' stern, bearded gaze, Artemisia's delicate fingers clasping a now-missing offering, even the hoof of one of the chariot horses, all frozen in time. These fragments whisper of a tomb that refused to be just a grave. It was a propaganda piece, an artistic revolution, and a love letter carved in stone. The irony, while the mausoleum itself is gone, its name outlived nearly every other wonder, a testament to the power of memory over mortality. In the barren plains of Pasargadae, where the winds whisper across the ruins of Persia's first capital, stands a monument so understated it defies expectation. The tomb of Cyrus the Great isn't adorned with gold or guarded by statues, just a simple, gabled stone chamber perched atop 6-step tiers, rising barely 30 feet into the sky. Yet this unassuming structure carries the weight of an empire. Built in the 6th century BCE, it's a testament to Cyrus's philosophy: power doesn't need pomp. Unlike the pyramids or the mausoleums of rival kings, Cyrus chose restraint. The tomb's design echoes the ziggurats of Mesopotamia but strips away all ornamentation, leaving only clean lines and quiet dignity. What's astonishing isn't just its simplicity but its survival. When Alexander the Great stormed through Persia in 330 BCE, he left a trail of fire in his wake: palaces burned, cities razed. Yet when he reached Cyrus's tomb, he halted. Ancient historians like Arrian describe Alexander finding the tomb looted, its golden sarcophagus gone, Cyrus's bones scattered. Furious, Alexander ordered the tomb restored, punishing those who desecrated it. Why this sudden reverence? Cyrus was a conqueror. Alexander admired a ruler who allowed conquered peoples to keep their customs, earning him the title Father of Human Rights in the Cyrus Cylinder. In that moment, the tomb became more than a relic. It was a mirror for Alexander's own ambitions. Centuries later, the tomb's endurance took on new meaning. Iran's Islamic Republic, often at odds with its pre-Islamic past, couldn't ignore Cyrus's legacy. The tomb became a rallying point during the 1971 celebrations of 2,500 years of Persian monarchy, drawing crowds who saw Cyrus as a symbol of national identity. Today, it's a site of pilgrimage not just for historians, but for Iranians seeking connection to a past that predates revolutions and empires. The empty chamber whispers of a ruler whose influence transcends time, a king who built an empire on tolerance, leaving a tomb that asks for nothing but remembrance. The genius of Cyrus's tomb lies in what it refuses to say. There are no inscriptions boasting of victories, no reliefs of conquered foes, just stone, sky, and the echoes of a man who reshaped the ancient world. In an age of excess, its silence speaks volumes. In the golden sands of southern Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers once nourished the world's first cities, Leonard Woolley uncovered a scene so haunting it blurred the line between burial and ritual massacre. The royal tombs of excavated between 1922 and 1934, revealed a Sumerian underworld frozen in time, a place where kings and queens didn't journey to the afterlife alone. Woolley's team gasped as they brushed away millennia of dirt to find not just skeletons, but entire retinues of attendants, musicians, and soldiers lying in perfect formation, their hands still clutching cups or instruments as if they'd merely fallen asleep. These weren't random burials, they were meticulously orchestrated ceremonies where dozens willingly drank poison to accompany their rulers into eternity. The most chilling discovery, the Great Death Pit, a rectangular chamber packed with 74 bodies, elaborately dressed women with golden headdresses, soldiers with spears at their sides, even oxen hitched to ceremonial carts, all arranged with eerie precision. Among the treasures, one artifact seemed to defy time itself. The ram in a thicket, a pair of golden statues depicting a goat standing on its hind legs against a flowering bush, is a masterpiece of Sumerian artistry. Crafted over 4,500 years ago from gold, lapis lazuli, and shell, its delicate curves and vibrant inlays showcase a sophistication that rivals anything from later civilizations. But what does it represent? Some scholars see it as a religious symbol, a depiction of the mythical goat god associated with fertility and abundance. Others argue it might have been a stand for ceremonial offerings, its branches once supporting bowls of incense or food for the dead. The truth remains elusive, but the ram's survival is miraculous. One of the pair was crushed flat by collapsing soil, only to be painstakingly restored by Woolley's team. Woolley's excavation methods were as groundbreaking as his finds. At a time when archaeology often prioritized treasure hunting over context, he documented every layer, every artifact's position, even the stains left by long-decayed wooden layers. His work revealed that these mass sacrifices weren't acts of brutality, but deeply ritualized events. The attendants showed no signs of struggle, their bones lay peacefully, some with cups still at their lips, suggesting they consumed a sedative before dying. The tombs themselves were architectural marvels, vaulted chambers built with mud brick, their ceilings long collapsed but their contents preserved by the very sand that buried them. The identity of the tomb's primary occupant, Queen Puobi, adds another layer of intrigue. Her burial chamber, untouched by looters, held a trove of gold, a diadem of intertwined leaves, cylindrical seals bearing her name, and a cloak of beads so intricate it took modern conservators years to reconstruct. Yet it's her attendants who haunt the imagination. Why did they go willingly? Sumerian texts hint at a belief that serving in the afterlife was an honor, a continuation of duty beyond death. The tombs of offer no clear answers, only whispers of a society where loyalty and mortality were viewed through a lens we can scarcely comprehend today. What makes tombs so extraordinary isn't just their opulence, but their intimacy. Woolley didn't just uncover objects, he revealed moments, a soldier's hand resting on his chariot, a harpist's fingers frozen mid-chord. These were people, not props, their lives surrendered in a final act of devotion. The royal tombs force us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, belief, and the price of eternity. Were these sacrifices acts of coercion or faith? The sand of Ur holds its silence, but the gold still gleams, the ram still stands, and the dead still wait, locked in a ritual the living may never fully understand. Beneath the quiet streets of Paola, Malta, lies a labyrinth lost to time, a three-level warren of chambers carved from solid limestone over 5,000 years ago. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni isn't just a burial site. It's an underground cathedral of the dead, where the Neolithic people of Malta interred their ancestors with a reverence that borders on obsession. Discovered in 1902 by construction workers who broke through its roof, the Hypogeum's shadowy corridors descend like roots into the earth, each level deeper than the last, each chamber more haunting than the one before. The air here is thick with the weight of centuries, the walls stained red from ochre rituals performed millennia ago. But what truly chills the spine isn't the darkness, it's the silence. Then the sound. Step into the so-called oracle chamber, and you'll understand why. This egg-shaped room, carved with uncanny precision, holds an acoustic anomaly that defies explanation. Speak here in a low voice, and the sound doesn't just echo, it amplifies, vibrating through the stone like a living thing. Deeper tones resonate at a frequency that seems to thrum in your bones, a phenomenon researchers believe was intentionally engineered. Was this chamber designed to transform human voices into something otherworldly, a bridge between the living and the dead? Some theories suggest the Hypogeum's priests used these acoustics to simulate divine messages, their disembodied voices swirling through the darkness to guide or terrify those who sought the oracle's wisdom. Modern experiments reveal that certain frequencies within the chamber can induce trance-like states, hinting at a ritual purpose far more sophisticated than mere burial. Then there are the skulls. Among the 7,000 bodies originally interred here, archaeologists uncovered craniums so bizarre they sparked decades of speculation. Elongated and misshapen, these skulls lack the defining median suture, the seam that runs along the top of a typical human head. Some dismissed them as the result of ancient head-binding practices, a cultural tradition seen in other early societies. Others, like Maltese researcher Anton Mifsud, argued the skull's volume and proportions fall outside normal human variation, fueling wilder theories about extraterrestrial influence or a lost advanced civilization. The truth: most mainstream scholars attribute the elongation to deliberate cranial manipulation, a practice possibly reserved for the elite, a way to physically distinguish the chosen few who communed with the gods. The Hypogeum's construction alone is a marvel. Dug entirely with stone tools and antler picks, its chambers mirror the megalithic temples above ground, complete with carved doorways, altars, and even a Holy of Holies reminiscent of Malta's above-ground Tarxian temples. But why build down when you could build up? Some archaeologists believe the Hypogeum was a deliberate inversion of the heavens, a shadow realm where the dead could be closer to the Earth's primal energies. Others see it as a practical solution to Malta's limited resources. With no large forests for timber and few natural caves, digging may have been the only option. What's certain is this: the Hypogeum was no static graveyard. Evidence of rituals spanned centuries, with newer chambers dug as older ones filled with bones. The dead weren't just buried, they were curated, their remains sometimes rearranged or painted with ochre in later ceremonies. In one niche, a figurine known as the Sleeping Lady was found, a serene, full-hipped woman reclining as if in eternal slumber. Is she a deity, a representation of death as peaceful rest, or perhaps a guardian meant to watch over the labyrinth's secrets? Today, access to the Hypogeum is tightly controlled. Only 80 visitors per day are allowed, their breath and footsteps carefully monitored to preserve the fragile microclimate that's kept the site intact for millennia. Even so, the mysteries persist. Why did the civilization that built it vanish so abruptly around 2500 BCE? Was the Hypogeum's final sealing an act of reverence or fear? The stones won't say, but stand in the oracle chamber long enough, and you might swear you hear whispers in the darkness, not echoes of your own voice, but something older, something waiting. The massive stone lintel looms over the entrance like a dare, 120 tons of limestone, precisely fitted without mortar, defying gravity for over 3,000 years. This is the so-called tomb of Agamemnon, though history might have played a cruel trick on its most famous excavator. Heinrich Schliemann, the man who unearthed Troy, was convinced he'd found the burial place of Homer's legendary king when he broke into Mycenae's monumental beehive tomb in 1876. His hands trembled as he uncovered gold death masks, including one he famously declared was the face of Agamemnon. But here's the catch: modern dating proved the mask predates Agamemnon's supposed reign by centuries. The tomb, more accurately called the Treasury of Atreus, wasn't built for a Homeric hero but for someone far older, a shadowy Mycenaean ruler whose name we've lost to time. Step inside and the engineering takes your breath away. The corbelled dome soars 45 feet high, its stones tapered inward in perfect concentric rings until they meet at a single capstone. No cement binds them, just precision carving and the weight of each block pressing against the next, a technique so advanced it wouldn't be matched until the Roman Pantheon millennia later. The acoustics are eerily precise. A whisper at the entrance reverberates through the chamber like a ghost sigh. Why such grandeur for a tomb? The answer lies in the Mycenaean worldview. This wasn't just a burial, it was a power statement carved into the Peloponnesian hillside, visible for miles, reminding all who passed that the rulers within were closer to gods than men. Schliemann's misidentification doesn't diminish the tomb's magic. The facade, though stripped of its decorative marble slabs long ago, still hints at its original opulence. Rosettes of red stone and green serpentine once studded the doorway, their colors symbolizing life and regeneration. A relieving triangle above the lintel, a space intentionally left empty, may have held a ritual sculpture, perhaps a sacred bull or a double axe emblem. Even the approach was theatrical, a 90-foot-long dromos or walkway lined with massive stone walls that funneled mourners or worshippers toward the darkened entrance, their footsteps echoing against stone worn smooth by centuries of use. The real mystery lies in what's missing. Unlike Egyptian pharaohs, Mycenaean rulers left no inscriptions naming themselves or their deeds. The treasury of Atreus was looted in antiquity, its contents scattered, but Schliemann's digs at nearby shaft graves offer clues. Golden cups depicting bull-leaping rituals, bronze swords inlaid with scenes of lion hunts, and those haunting death masks with their blank, heavy-lidded stares suggest a culture obsessed with both warfare and the afterlife. Whoever was buried here wasn't just a king, they were the axis of a world where the boundaries between the living and the dead were porous, where ancestors wielded power long after their last breath. Modern archaeology paints a more nuanced picture than Schliemann's romantic Homeric fantasies. The tomb dates to around 1250 BC, part of a network of Mycenaean tholos tombs dotting the Greek mainland. Its nickname, the Treasury of Atreus, is itself a later invention borrowed from Greek mythology's cursed royal family, yet the grandeur can't be denied. Even empty, the chamber hums with presence, the weight of stone stacked not just to house a body, but to defy time itself. Walk its length today, and you're tracing the footsteps of priests, mourners, and perhaps even Agamemnon's descendants, who may have come here centuries later to commune with the long-dead kings they called ancestors. The truth, the tomb's real power lies not in who it held, but in the questions it refuses to answer. Beneath the glittering streets of Paris, where tourists flock to cafes and museums, lies a city of the dead so vast it could swallow the living whole. The catacombs of Paris stretch for 200 miles, a shadow replica of the city above, its tunnels lined with the bones of 6 million souls. This isn't just an ossuary, It's a macabre work of art where femurs and skulls are stacked in careful patterns, forming walls of grinning faces and arches of tibias. The effect is both chilling and strangely beautiful, a reminder that even in death there's an order to the chaos. But how did so many bones end up here? The story begins with plague and overcrowding. By the late 18th century, Paris's cemeteries were overflowing, their stench seeping into streets and cellars. The cemetery of the Innocents alone held 2 million bodies, its soil so saturated that graves could no longer be dug. After a particularly heavy rain caused a wall to collapse, sending corpses spilling into nearby basements, authorities made a grim decision. They would empty the cemeteries and relocate the dead to the abandoned limestone quarries beneath the city. Night after night, black-draped carts rumbled through the streets, their loads of bones blessed by priests before being stacked underground like firewood. The catacombs became more than a dumping ground, they became a mirror of Paris itself. Some sections were arranged with eerie precision, like the barrel of the tibias, a supporting pillar entirely constructed from leg bones. Others bear cryptic carvings from the workers who toiled here, their messages etched into stone alongside dates from the French Revolution. It's no coincidence that the catacombs' expansion coincided with the Reign of Terror. As heads rolled above ground, skeletons filled the tunnels below, a silent counterpoint to the revolution's fury. Yet for all their solemn history, the catacombs have spawned a rebellious underworld of their own, the cataphiles. These urban explorers slip past sealed entrances to navigate the unmapped portions of the labyrinth, hosting clandestine parties in hidden chambers or leaving behind murals and sculptures. Some seek adventure, others crave solitude in a city that never sleeps. Authorities estimate over 300 illegal entrances exist, and despite fines and patrols, the cataphiles keep returning, drawn by the thrill of the forbidden. What is it about these tunnels that captivates us? Perhaps it's the way they force us to confront mortality without pretense. There are no golden sarcophagi here, no grand epitaphs, just bones upon bones, anonymous yet impossible to ignore. The catacombs don't whisper secrets like other tombs. They scream in unison, a chorus of the ordinary dead who shaped Paris as much as its kings and revolutionaries. To walk their dim corridors is to tread the line between past and present, between the city of light and the darkness that cradles it. While Qin Shi Huang's Terracotta Army stands guard above ground, a darker secret lies buried just 700 meters east of his tomb, a mass grave not of clay soldiers but of flesh and bone. Archaeologists call it Pit Number 13, a chilling companion to the Emperor's Grand Mausoleum. Here, 99 skeletons were discovered in carefully arranged rows, their bones frozen in silent agony. Unlike the warriors meant to serve Qin Shi Huang in death, these were real women concubines and servants buried alive alongside their emperor. The positioning tells a gruesome story. Some skeletons curl into fetal positions, their hands clawing at their throats, while others lie with arms outstretched as if begging for mercy. This wasn't just a burial, it was an execution disguised as devotion. The practice of retainer sacrifice wasn't new in ancient China, but Qin Shi Huang took it to horrifying extremes. Historical texts like the Records of the Grand Historian describe how, after the emperor's death in 210 BCE, his heir ordered the palace concubines who'd borne no children to join him in the afterlife. The reasoning was both practical and brutal to prevent rival bloodlines from challenging the throne. Yet Pit 13 suggests the purge went deeper. Many of the women were teenagers, their bones showing no signs of childbirth. Were they killed simply for having known the emperor's secrets, or was this a display of absolute control, a warning that even in death, Qin Shi Huang's grip would never loosen? Forensic analysis reveals the methods of their demise. Some skulls show fractures from blunt force trauma, likely administered to ensure compliance before burial. Others bear traces of mercury poisoning, a chilling parallel to the rivers of liquid metal said to flow through Qin Shi Huang's own tomb. but the most disturbing detail is the absence of struggle marks on the surrounding earth. These women didn't fight their fate. Had they been drugged or worse, convinced their sacrifice was an honor, the tomb's layout exposes the hypocrisy at the empire's core. While the terracotta warriors face outward, ready to repel invaders, the concubines' bodies are turned toward the emperor's mausoleum, eternal servants frozen in deference. Even in death, hierarchy ruled. Excavators found delicate hairpins and jade ornaments among the bones, personal treasures buried with their owners. One young woman clutched a bronze mirror, its surface once polished enough to reflect her face, now corroded green with time. These small, intimate objects humanize the tragedy, reminding us that history's grand narratives are written on the bones of the nameless. Modern scholars grapple with the legacy of Pit 13. Some argue the concubine sacrifice reflects a belief in cosmic order, an emperor's right to take his household into the next world. Others see it as sheer political terror, a message to the living from a ruler who eradicated dissent even in his mortal exit. One thing is certain, Qin Shi Huang's tomb complex isn't just a monument to power. It's a crime scene where the weight of empire pressed down on the weakest, leaving their silent screams etched into the earth. The terracotta warriors may guard his secrets, but the bones of Pit 13 tell the truth. Deep in the peat bogs of Motala, Sweden, archaeologists uncovered a scene that looked more like something from a nightmare than ancient ritual. Sticking out of the dark, wet earth were human skulls, some still impaled on wooden stakes, their hollow eye sockets staring blankly after 8,000 years. This is the Tomb of the Sunken Skulls, a Mesolithic burial site so unsettling it challenges everything we think we know about early hunter-gatherer societies. Unlike the grandeur of pyramids or the artistry of terracotta armies, this site speaks in whispers of violence and mystery. The excavation revealed at least 11 individuals, men, women, and even infants, their skulls deliberately separated from their bodies. 2 of the skulls still had wooden stakes protruding from the base, evidence they'd once been mounted like gruesome trophies. But here's what chills the bones. One skull bore marks of multiple blows, yet showed signs of healing before death. This person survived violence once, only to meet a brutal end later. Was this revenge, punishment, or part of a ritual we can barely comprehend? Theories spiral like the carvings on ancient bone. Some researchers believe the skulls were part of a mortuary practice, ancestor veneration taken to extremes, where the dead were kept literally present among the living. Others argue the arrangement was territorial, a grisly boundary marker warning outsiders to stay away. The presence of animal bones, particularly wild boar, suggests feasting or sacrificial rites, but the truth is murkier than the bog water that preserved these remains. What's undeniable is the care taken in placement. The skulls weren't dumped, they were arranged, some even facing a central point as if in silent congregation. The peat, acidic and oxygen-poor, acted as a natural time capsule, preserving not just bone but the stakes themselves, a rare glimpse into Mesolithic woodcraft. Forensic analysis revealed that many skulls belonged to individuals who suffered malnutrition or disease, hinting they might have been outcasts or offerings in desperate times. Modern DNA studies add another layer. Some skulls share genetic links, suggesting family groups were targeted together. One woman's skull held a piece of another person's bone wedged inside, possibly placed there intentionally. Was this a relic, a keepsake, or something darker? The Tomb of the Sunken Skulls refuses to fit neatly into narratives of peaceful early societies. It forces us to confront the possibility that ritual violence or even warfare existed long before cities or written history. Unlike the grand tombs of kings, this site wasn't about celebrating power. It was raw, intimate, and unsettling. The people here weren't buried with gold or weapons, but with the weight of unanswered questions. As the peat slowly gives up its secrets, each skull whispers the same haunting reminder. The past is far stranger and far more brutal than we often imagine. The heart of Qin Shi Huang's sprawling necropolis remains a sealed mystery, a burial chamber so laden with legends and potential dangers that even modern archaeologists hesitate to breach its depths. While the terracotta warriors and the grisly pits of concubines have been excavated, the emperor's central tomb lies untouched beneath a man-made mountain of earth, its secrets guarded as fiercely today as they were 2,200 years ago. Ancient historian Sima Qian wrote of palaces filled with treasures, rivers of shimmering mercury, and crossbows rigged to fire at intruders, descriptions so vivid they've fueled speculation for centuries. But are they fact or folklore? Ground-penetrating radar has detected unusually high mercury concentrations in the soil, matching Sima Qian's account of rivers and seas replicating the empire's geography. Yet the real deterrent isn't poison, it's preservation. Chinese authorities fear that opening the tomb could irreparably damage artifacts sealed for millennia in a delicate microclimate. The scale of the tomb's defenses is staggering. Beyond the rumored mechanical traps possibly triggered by stepping stones or hidden tripwires, there's the psychological warfare woven into its design. The tomb's layout mirrors Qin Shi Huang's paranoia, a labyrinth meant to confuse and deter. Even if modern tools could bypass these hazards, the ethical dilemma remains. Excavation techniques that worked for Tutankhamun's tomb in the 1920s would be disastrous here. Pigments on murals could flake away in seconds. Bronze weapons might crumble upon contact with air. The tomb isn't just a time capsule, it's a ticking clock where exposure could erase more history than it reveals. China's reluctance isn't just about caution, it's about reverence. Qin Shi Huang unified warring states, standardized writing, and built precursors to the Great Wall. To disturb his resting place isn't just an archaeological challenge, it's a cultural reckoning. Some scholars argue the tomb should remain sealed as a gesture of respect, a recognition that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved. Others counter that the knowledge gained could rewrite our understanding of early China. For now, technology offers a middle path. Non-invasive techniques like 3D mapping and muon radiography allow glimpses beyond the Earth without breaking the seal, revealing voids that could be chambers or collapsed tunnels. Every scan peels back another layer of the puzzle, but the emperor's sarcophagus and whatever unimaginable riches surround it remains just beyond reach. Perhaps the greatest trap isn't mechanical but temporal. The longer the tomb stays closed, the more its legend grows. With each passing year, the weight of expectation builds. What if the reality can't match the myth, or worse, what if it does? The mausoleum stands as a test of human restraint, a challenge to balance curiosity with wisdom. Until science advances enough to guarantee the tomb's preservation, Qin Shi Huang will keep his secrets, his mercury rivers still flowing, his armies standing guard, and his final defiance echoing across the centuries. Some doors once shut were never meant to reopen. In the arid deserts of northern Peru, where the winds carve shapes into the sand, archaeologists unearthed a tomb that made even the most seasoned experts pause. Known as the Tomb of the Silver Hands, this 1,000-year-old burial site belonged to a Sutton lord, a man whose death was marked by opulence and an eerie surgical precision. When researchers first peered into the chamber, they found a figure clad in gold, his face hidden behind an ornate mask, his body surrounded by treasures fit for a king. But the real shock came when they noticed his hands, or rather, what should have been his hands. Where flesh and bone once rested, two delicate silver replicas gleamed in their place, each finger meticulously crafted to mirror human anatomy. This wasn't just a burial quirk. The Sutton, a culture that thrived centuries before the Inca, were master metalworkers, their goldsmiths producing some of the most exquisite artifacts in pre-Columbian America. Yet the choice to replace the Lord's skeletal hands with silver speaks to something deeper than craftsmanship. Some scholars believe it was a ritual act, a way to restore the body for the afterlife, ensuring the deceased could grasp, gesture, or even wield power beyond the grave. Others suggest the hands were amputated during life, possibly as punishment or as part of a sacrificial rite, with the silver prosthetic serving as a symbolic restitution. The tomb's lavish contents only deepen the mystery. The Lord's golden mask, with its almond-shaped eyes and serene expression, is a masterpiece of metallurgy, its surface adorned with tiny dangling ornaments that would have shimmered with every movement. Surrounding him were ceremonial knives, beaded necklaces, and cups forged from precious metals, objects meant to accompany him into the next world. But it's the presence of sacrificial attendants that chills the blood. 2 women, possibly wives or servants, were buried at his sides, their bodies arranged as if in mid-motion, their own grave goods suggesting they were high-status individuals who chose, or were chosen to follow their lord into eternity. Forensic analysis revealed another twist. The Lord's skeleton showed signs of advanced decay before burial, hinting that his body was preserved or stored elsewhere before being interred with such care. Was he a revered ancestor, his remains relocated to this grand tomb years after death, or did his passing spark a prolonged period of mourning, delaying the final rites? The silver hands add another layer. Were they added post-mortem, or did he wear them in life, a living emblem of divine or political authority? The Sukhan left no written records, so every artifact is a clue in an unsolved puzzle. Even the tomb's location speaks volumes, dug deep into the earth, aligned with celestial events, as if the builders sought to tether the Lord's spirit to both land and sky. Today, his silver hands rest in a museum, their fingers forever curled as if around some invisible object, a silent testament to a culture that blurred the lines between the mortal and the divine, between loss and eternal repair. What rites required such a substitution? What beliefs justified such precision? The desert keeps its secrets, but the hands remain cold, shining, and achingly human in their artifice. Deep within the pyramid temple of Palenque, beneath layers of limestone and centuries of jungle growth, Mexican archaeologist Alberto Roslulia made a discovery that would redefine our understanding of Maya death rituals. In 1952, after 4 years of painstaking excavation, his team broke through a hidden passageway into a vaulted chamber, and there, glowing faintly in the torchlight, lay the jade-studded sarcophagus of Pakal the Great. The ruler who reigned over Palenque for 68 years hadn't just been buried, he'd been entombed in a cosmic blueprint, his death orchestrated with celestial precision. The sarcophagus lid alone is a masterpiece of Maya cosmology, its intricate carvings sparking debates that still simmer today. Pakal is depicted reclining at the base of the world tree, his body angled as if in mid-fall or ascent, surrounded by celestial markers and serpentine deities. Some fringe theorists famously and mistakenly claimed the carving showed Pakal piloting a spaceship, earning him the nickname the Maya astronaut. But scholars see something far more profound, a visual hymn to the cycle of death and rebirth. The tree's roots plunge into the underworld, its branches reaching the heavens, cradling Pakal between realms. The imagery mirrors sacred texts like the Popol Vuh, where heroes descend into Xibalba, the Maya underworld, only to emerge transformed. Every detail of the tomb whispers of astronomical synchronicity. The chamber lies precisely along Palenque's north-south axis, aligning with the temple of the inscriptions above it. On the winter solstice, sunlight pierces through the temple's roof comb, illuminating the staircase leading to Pakal's crypt, a deliberate design ensuring the king's spirit would commune with the sun at its weakest point, symbolizing renewal. Even the sarcophagus's placement reflects this duality. Pakal's body was oriented so his gaze would eternally track Venus, a planet central to Maya mythology, associated with both war and resurrection. Then there's the jade. Pakal's death mask alone is a mosaic of over 200 polished jade tiles, his lips parted slightly as if whispering secrets to the underworld gods. Jade beads filled his mouth, a ritual act meant to sustain his soul's journey. His fingers bore jade rings, his wrists cuffs engraved with glyphs proclaiming his divine lineage. For the Maya, jade wasn't just decoration, it symbolized water, life, and the eternal verdancy of the cosmos. To bury a king in jade was to armor him for the afterlife, wrapping him in the essence of immortality itself. But the tomb's greatest revelation might be what it says about Maya concepts of time. Pakal's burial was timed to the Khatan cycle, a 20-year period marking cosmological renewal. His death wasn't an end, but a hinge moment, his body positioned as a conduit between earthly and divine realms. The artifacts surrounding him, ceramic plates painted with scenes of resurrection, spondylus shells symbolizing the watery underworld, were less grave goods than ritual tools meant to activate his transformation. Even the pyramid covering his tomb was designed to grow over centuries, its layers mimicking the sacred mountain of creation. Modern technology has peeled back even more layers. In 2016, researchers using sonar discovered a hidden water channel beneath the tomb, likely representing the Maya underworld's rivers. Could this have been an auditory feature, the sound of flowing water accompanying Pakal's spirit? Or a symbolic barrier separating the living from the dead? The questions multiply, but one truth remains: Pakal's tomb isn't just a burial site. It's a clock, a compass, and a map, all carved in stone, waiting for the right moment to reveal its next secret. The king may have left this world, but his tomb ensures he'll never truly be gone. Beneath the quiet expanse of Arlington National Cemetery, where rows of white headstones stretch like silent sentinels, lies a tomb unlike any other. The tomb of the unknown soldier doesn't hold gold or ancient artifacts, just the remains of a single, unidentifiable warrior, chosen to represent all those who fought and died without recognition. This modern monument carries a weight far beyond its marble slab, a power that transcends time and borders. The idea took root in the aftermath of World War I, a conflict so devastating it left millions missing, their bodies swallowed by trenches or reduced to unmarked graves. Nations grappling with this collective grief sought a way to honor the anonymous dead, and in 1921, the United States embarked on a solemn mission to select one soldier who would stand for the countless unknown. The selection process was a ritual of reverence. 4 unidentified American casualties were exhumed from different European battlefields: Belleau Wood, the Meuse Argonne, the Somme, and another chosen at random. Their caskets were brought to the City Hall of Chalon-sur-Marne, France, where Sergeant Edward F. Younger, a decorated veteran, was handed a bouquet of white roses and instructed to place them on one of the 4. With no names, no ranks, only intuition, he walked silently before laying the flowers on the 3rd casket from the left. That soldier was transported home aboard the USS Olympia, his coffin passing under arches of swords and salutes while crowds lined the streets of Washington, D.C. to witness the arrival of a man no one could name. What makes this tomb so profound isn't just its symbolism, but its living tradition. Since 1937, the tomb has been guarded 24 hours a day, 365 days a year by the elite sentinels of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment. Their precision is legendary: 21 measured steps south, a pause for 21 seconds, then 21 steps north, mirroring the 21-gun salute, the highest military honor. Every movement from the rifle shoulder shifts to the exact angle of their polished shoes, is a meticulously choreographed act of devotion. The sentinels don't just protect the tomb, they embody the nation's promise to never forget. Yet the tomb's story doesn't end there. In 1958 and again in 1984, unknown soldiers from World War II and the Korean War were interred beside their World War I comrade. For decades, a 4th crypt held the remains of an unknown from Vietnam until advances in DNA testing identified him as Air Force Lieutenant Michael Blassie in 1998. His family chose to reclaim him, leaving the crypt empty but for a new inscription, honoring and keeping faith with America's missing servicemen. This evolution reflects a tension at the tomb's heart, the conflict between anonymity and identity, between collective mourning and the individual stories behind every loss. The tomb's power lies in its contradictions. It honors sacrifice without glorifying war, remembers without naming, and stands as both a monument and a mirror. Visitors often leave letters, medals, or children's drawings atop the marble, as if speaking to their own lost loved ones through this symbolic soldier. In a world where modern warfare can identify nearly every fallen service member, the tomb's meaning shifts, no longer just a placeholder for the nameless, but a reminder of the cost paid by all who serve. The unknown soldier could be anyone's son, father, or brother, and in that uncertainty he belongs to everyone. The sentinels keep their watch, the roses keep blooming, and the marble keeps its silence, because sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones left untold. The dry coastal winds of northern Peru had swept across the Huaca pyramid for centuries, erasing traces of the Moche civilization until one day in 2005, when archaeologist Regulo Franco Jordan brushed away the dust to reveal a site that upended history. Beneath layers of adobe and woven textiles lay the mummified remains of a woman, her skin etched with intricate tattoos of spiders and snakes, her body wrapped in a cloak of gold plaques and ceremonial weapons. This was no ordinary burial. The artifacts surrounding her, a silver goblet, a gold sewing needle, a war club inlaid with turquoise, marked her as a ruler of staggering power. But it was the two sacrificed men at her feet that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. Here, in a society long assumed to be patriarchal, was undeniable proof of a warrior priestess who commanded both spiritual and military authority. The tattoos told their own story. Etched into her arms and ankles with charcoal-based ink, the designs mirrored those worn by Moche deities depicted in temple murals. Spiders symbolized fate and weaving, a nod to her role as a shaman who spun the threads of life and death. The serpents coiling around her skin spoke of transformation, linking her to the underworld gods. But these weren't just ritual markings, they were maps of power, signaling her ability to traverse cosmic realms. Forensic analysis revealed something even more astonishing. The ink had been applied years before her death, meaning she'd lived much of her life as a marked woman, her body a living testament to her divine connection. Then there were the weapons. Buried beside her were 23 spear throwers, a golden headdress shaped like an owl's wings, and a copper-sheathed war club heavy enough to crush bone. These weren't ceremonial props. The club's handle bore were patterns consistent with frequent use. Had she led troops into battle, or did the weapons serve as symbols of her authority to mete out divine justice? The discovery forced scholars to revisit Moche art, where depictions of women in combat had long been dismissed as mythological. Now, with her skeleton showing signs of healed fractures and robust muscle attachments, the evidence pointed to a woman who'd wielded power in life, not just in death. Her burial chamber was a microcosm of Moche cosmology. The walls were painted with scenes of ritual sacrifice, echoing the two male attendants found with slit throats at her feet, likely offerings to accompany her into the afterlife. Her body had been coated in cinnabar, a blood-red mercury mineral sacred to the Moche, its toxic glow meant to preserve her soul as well as her flesh. The positioning was deliberate, seated upright, facing the rising sun, as if awaiting rebirth. Even the layers of textiles wrapping her body carried messages. One shroud bore the image of a decapitator god, his knife poised above a prisoner, reinforcing her role as a mediator between life and death. The implications rippled far beyond archaeology. Before this discovery, the Moche were thought to mirror other ancient societies where women held religious roles but rarely political or military power. The priestess shattered that assumption. Her tomb suggests a society where gender wasn't a barrier to authority, where a woman could be both spiritual leader and warrior, her rule legitimized by divine mandate rather than brute force. Modern DNA analysis has since revealed she shared genetic ties with later female rulers buried nearby, hinting at a possible dynasty of tattooed priestesses who governed this stretch of Peru's coast. Today, her reconstructed face, strong-jawed and serene, gazes out from museum displays, challenging our stereotypes of ancient power structures. The ochre-red tattoos still visible on her mummified skin whisper of a time when authority wasn't dictated by gender, but by the will of the gods and the strength of the individual. She forces us to ask how many other women's stories have been buried by history, their legacies dismissed as myth or anomaly. The tomb of the Moch priestess doesn't just hold bones and artifacts, it holds a revolution, patiently waiting 1,500 years to rewrite the past. Beneath the sun-baked soil of Pylos, near the ruins of a forgotten Mycenaean palace, a team of archaeologists uncovered a tomb that would rewrite our understanding of Bronze Age Greece. In 2015, jackhammers gave way to delicate brushes as researchers peeled back layers of earth to reveal an intact shaft grave, a rarity in a region where looters had plundered nearly every known burial site. There, curled in a fetal position atop a bed of crushed seashells, lay the skeletal remains of a warrior, his bones draped in gold so meticulously crafted it seemed to pulse under the Mediterranean sun. This was no ordinary soldier. Around his neck hung a delicate golden pendant shaped like a lion's head, its mane etched with spirals that mirrored the waves of the nearby Aegean. His chest bore a meticulously arranged display of gold rings, each one engraved with intricate patterns that might have signified rank or divine favor. But it was the weapons that told the true story, a bronze sword with an ivory hilt, its blade still sharp enough to draw blood, and a dagger inlaid with a scene so detailed it defied the era's supposed artistic limits. Whoever this warrior was, he had been sent into the afterlife armed for battle and adorned like a king. Then came the revelation that stopped even seasoned archaeologists mid-breath. Nestled near the warrior's right hand was a lump of corroded bronze that, when cleaned, revealed the agate sealstone, a gemstone no larger than a thumbnail. Under magnification, its surface exploded into a scene of breathtaking violence and grace. A victorious warrior plunging his sword into an enemy's exposed throat while a second foe lies sprawled at his feet. The details were microscopic muscles straining beneath skin, tendons taut in the dying man's neck, even the intricate weave of the victor's loincloth. This level of precision, carved nearly 3,500 years ago, shouldn't have been possible without magnifying lenses, technology the Mycenaeans weren't known to possess. The sealstone wasn't just art, it was a puzzle. The combatants' hairstyles and weapons suggested they weren't Mycenaean but Minoan, the sophisticated civilization of Crete that predated and influenced mainland Greece. Was the griffin warrior named for the mythical beast depicted on an ivory plaque beside him a conqueror of Crete, a mercenary who'd fought in foreign wars? Or perhaps a diplomat who'd brought Minoan artisans back to Pylos, their skills forever immortalized in agate. The tomb's location deepened the intrigue. Just steps from the later palace of Nestor, a Homeric landmark, it hinted that this warrior might have been part of the dynasty that gave rise to the legendary king. Forensic analysis added startling intimacy to the find. The man stood about 5.5 feet tall, average for the time, but his bones bore the marks of a life steeped in violence. Healed fractures in his ribs and right arm spoke of past battles survived, while wear on his joints suggested years of horseback riding. Isotope testing revealed he'd grown up locally, drinking water from Pylos's limestone springs, yet his tomb contained amber from the Baltic and amethyst from Egypt, proof of far-flung trade networks. Even his death held mysteries. At around 30 to 35 years old, he showed no signs of fatal injury. Was he cut down by disease, poison, or something more ritualistic, like the sacrificial scenes depicted on the gold cups buried with him? The true shock came when researchers realized the tomb had been dug not for a king, but during a time of cultural upheaval when Mycenaean society was just emerging from Minoan's shadow. The Griffin warrior's grave goods Minoan in artistry but Mycenaean in symbolism captured this liminal moment, a snapshot of a civilization finding its voice. His gold death mask, though fragmented, bore the earliest known example of the Mycenaean griffin, a creature that would later adorn thrones and frescoes. In death, he became a bridge between worlds, his tomb a seed from which classical Greece would eventually grow. Today, the agate sealstone rests in a museum case, its battle scene illuminated by fiber optic lights. Visitors lean close, squinting at details the naked eye can barely discern, while scholars debate whether its unknown artist used a diamond-tipped tool or simply patience bordering on obsession. The Griffin warrior himself remains silent, his name lost to time, his bones whispering of a life straddling myth and history. But one thing is certain, in that unassuming patch of Greek soil, we didn't just find a tomb. We found the birth certificate of a civilization. The earth gave up its secret grudgingly, one shovelful at a time, in the dead of night. In 1987, looters digging near the Peruvian village of Sutton had no idea their illegal trench would expose one of the most opulent royal burials in the Americas. Their flashlights flickered over gold, not just trinkets, but entire funeral regalia glowing in the darkness. As police closed in on the looters, archaeologists rushed to salvage what remained, uncovering a tomb that would rewrite much history. The Lord of Sutton lay entombed in a wooden coffin long since decayed, leaving his skeleton cradled in a nest of gold, silver, and copper ornaments so thick they formed a metallic second skin around his bones. His headdress alone was a masterpiece, a crescent-shaped crown of hammered gold adorned with owl faces, their hollow eyes staring into eternity. Owl motifs repeated throughout the burial, from his necklace of golden peanuts symbolizing fertility, to the massive backflap covering his lower spine, each piece proclaiming his role as both warrior and spiritual intermediary. But the true shock came when archaeologists noticed the skeletal guardians surrounding him. One figure, buried just above the Lord's coffin, was missing both feet, intentionally removed before burial. This wasn't a case of decay or looters. The bones showed clean cuts, evidence of deliberate amputation. Why sever a guardian's feet? Much art offers clues. Ceramics depict runners, messengers who sprinted barefoot across the desert delivering commands. By removing this guardian's feet, the Moch may have symbolically bound him to his post, ensuring he could never desert his eternal watch. The Lord's burial chamber mirrored this duality of power and sacrifice. A young boy lay at his head, possibly a cupbearer for the afterlife, while two llamas, one with a silver collar, flanked his sides, their throats slit in a final offering. Then there were the weapons. 3 pairs of gold and turquoise earspools depicted warriors carrying clubs and shields, their faces frozen in battle cries. Real weapons surrounded the Lord, copper war clubs with star-shaped heads designed to fracture bone, and a scepter topped with a miniature golden palace. Every artifact whispered the same message: this was no passive ruler. The Moch Lord was buried as he lived, a commander who straddled the realms of military might and divine authority. Modern forensic analysis revealed the toll of such a life. His spine showed signs of chronic stress, likely from years of wearing heavy ceremonial gear, while his teeth bore grooves from holding copper mouthpieces during rituals. The tomb's layered construction revealed meticulous planning. The Lord was buried first, then covered with a roof of clay bricks before additional sacrifices, including a second guardian, this one with intact feet, were placed above him. This wasn't a hasty interment, it was a carefully staged descent into the underworld, each layer a new chapter in his post-mortem journey. What makes Sutton extraordinary isn't just its gold, but its intimacy. Unlike Egypt's sealed pyramids, this tomb felt startlingly human. The Lord's face, reconstructed from his skull, shows a man with strong cheekbones and a slightly asymmetrical nose, no idealized mask, but a real person. The llamas were buried with their favorite plants still clutched in their teeth. Even the missing-footed guardian had a small bag of shells placed near his hands, perhaps provisions for the journey ahead. The looters who first breached the tomb took enough to fill a small museum, melting down irreplaceable artifacts for bullion. Yet what remains challenges our assumptions about pre-Columbian societies. Here was a civilization with metallurgy so advanced they could alloy gold and silver to create contrasting hues in a single ornament, and a cosmology so rich they envisioned their rulers needing an entourage both living and dismembered to navigate the afterlife. The Lord of Sipon's tomb doesn't just hold treasures, it holds a worldview, one where power, faith, and sacrifice were threads in the same glittering tapestry. High in the Andes, where the thin air carries whispers of ancient empires, archaeologists uncovered a tomb that shattered assumptions about Peru's wary civilization. In 2012, beneath the ruins of a sprawling ceremonial complex at El Castillo de Huame, researchers discovered an undisturbed burial chamber, a rarity in a region ravaged by centuries of looting. As the team brushed away centuries of compacted soil, a glint of gold caught the light. A noblewoman lay entombed in regal splendor, her skull crowned with oversized gold ear flares so heavy they had distorted her jawbone over time. This was no ordinary elite, she was a wary queen, her burial a masterclass in blending power, artistry, and macabre ritual. The sheer wealth of grave goods spoke volumes. Beside her rested a silver goblet, delicate weaving tools made from precious metals, and a stash of rare spondylus shells imported from Ecuador's warm waters at great cost, their fiery red hues symbolizing lifeblood and fertility in Andean cosmology. But it was the textiles that took center stage. 60 finely woven panels surrounded her body, some so intricately patterned they contained over 100 threads per square inch. For the wary, cloth wasn't just material, it was a language encoding status and spiritual beliefs in every fiber. The queen's burial shroud bore geometric designs mimicking sacred mountain landscapes, suggesting she served as a human axis linking Earth to the heavens. Then came the chilling discovery: 6 skeletons arranged around the queen's platform, their bodies showing no signs of trauma. These weren't battle casualties or executed prisoners. Forensic analysis revealed traces of a sedative in their bones. They had gone willingly to their deaths, possibly drinking chicha beer laced with potent hallucinogens before lying down to eternal sleep. One young woman cradled a weaving basket in her arms, her fingers still curled around unfinished thread. Another wore a necklace of human teeth, echoing wary art depicting priestesses who transformed the dead into protective talismans. This wasn't mere sacrifice, it was a carefully choreographed passage where attendants became eternal guardians through ritual rather than violence. The queen's own skeleton told a story of privilege and pain. Her vertebrae showed signs of advanced arthritis, likely from years of sitting cross-legged at a loom, evidence that even rulers participated in the textile production that formed the empire's economic backbone. Dental plaque held traces of coca and hallucinogenic seeds, hinting at her role in shamanic ceremonies. Most striking were her elongated earlobes, stretched by the weight of those gold flares, a living canvas of wary beauty standards that merged aesthetic devotion with displays of endurance. Unlike Egyptian pharaohs buried for solitary glory, this queen was interred as the heart of a community, surrounded by craftspeople and priests whose presence guaranteed her continued influence in the afterlife. What makes this tomb extraordinary isn't just its contents, but its timing. The wary empire predated the Inca by centuries, yet their royal burials shared uncanny similarities, from the use of sacrificial attendants to the emphasis on textiles as sacred objects. Historians now speculate the Inca may have inherited rather than invented these traditions, with the wary queen serving as a missing link in understanding Andean power structures. Even her location defied expectations, built not in the highland capital but near the coast, suggesting wary influence stretched further than previously believed. Modern technology peeled back even more layers. CT scans revealed a hidden compartment beneath the Queen's body containing a second, smaller coffin. A teenage girl, possibly a relative, buried with her own miniature weaving kit. The intimate proximity suggests a dynasty of female rulers passing knowledge through generations, their authority woven as tightly as the tapestries they created. Today, the Queen's reconstructed face gazes from museum displays, her gold flares gleaming as brightly as the day they were sealed, a silent testament to an empire where power wasn't just taken, but spun, threaded, and etched into the very bones of history. Perched high on the sheer cliffs of Peru's Utcubamba Valley, the sarcophagi of the Chachapoya seem to defy both gravity and time. These eerie, human-shaped burial pods cling to the rock faces like sentinels, their painted faces staring blankly across the mist-shrouded abyss. Known as the Cloud Warriors for their mountaintop fortresses, the Chachapoya built their tombs where even the bravest climbers hesitate to tread, not just to protect their dead, but to lift them closer to the gods. Each sarcophagus, or Puran Machu, stands over 6 feet tall, crafted from clay, straw, and quartz, then painted in bold stripes of white and red ochre. Some still wear carved wooden masks, their features weathered but proud, as if guarding secrets whispered by the wind. Spanish chroniclers who first encountered the Chachapoya in the 16th century wrote of towering, fair-skinned warriors with hair as golden as wheat, a description that fueled myths of lost European tribes or even remnants of Atlantis. Modern DNA testing has since revealed a simpler truth. Their distinctive traits likely came from isolation in the cloud forests where rare genetic variations thrived. But the Spaniards weren't entirely wrong about their fierceness. When the Inca Empire expanded into Chachapoya territory in the late 15th century, they met resistance so fierce it took decades to subjugate the region. The Cloud Warriors used the landscape itself as a weapon, rolling boulders onto invaders from cliffs and vanishing into the fog. Even after conquest, they rebelled repeatedly, forcing the Inca to station an unusually large garrison there. The tombs themselves are architectural marvels. Built to withstand earthquakes and landslides, their interiors were lined with textiles and filled with offerings, gourd bowls, copper pins, even tiny figurines of warriors clutching spears. Many were placed in groups, facing one another as if in conversation, suggesting the Chachapoya viewed death as a communal journey. Some sarcophagi contain multiple bodies, possibly family groups interred together. The most striking feature is their posture. Each figure stands upright, arms crossed over the chest, a defiant stance even in death. What happened to the Cloud Warriors remains a haunting mystery. After resisting the Inca, they allied with the Spanish against their former oppressors, only to be decimated by European diseases. Their descendants survived, but their culture faded into the mists. Today, looters and erosion threaten the remaining sarcophagi, though a few have been rescued and preserved. To stand beneath them is to feel the weight of their story, a people who chose the sky as their burial ground, whose warriors faced empires and eternity with equal courage. Their tombs don't just hold bones, they cradle the echoes of a civilization that refused to be forgotten. In the quiet shadows of a 16th-century Venetian plague cemetery, archaeologists uncovered a skull that would rewrite the history of superstition. Buried among thousands of plague victims on the island of Lazaretto Nuovo, this particular skeleton bore signs of a ritual so chilling it seemed ripped from folklore, a brick wedged violently between its jaws. The woman, likely in her 60s when she died during the brutal plague outbreak of 1576, wasn't just laid to rest. She was imprisoned in death, her mouth stuffed with masonry as if to silence her eternally. This wasn't random desecration. Forensic anthropologists recognized it immediately as a masticatio mortuorum, the chewing dead ritual, a desperate attempt to stop a suspected vampire from rising to feast on the living. The brick tells a story far darker than its crude shape suggests. When researchers analyzed the woman's remains, they found something even more telling. Her front teeth had been deliberately knocked out post-mortem, likely to make room for the brick. In medieval Europe, vampires weren't the charming creatures of later fiction. They were plague carriers, blamed for spreading death even after their own demise. The fear was visceral. If a corpse showed signs of life, like a bloated belly or blood-stained lips, both natural decomposition processes, villagers believed it was feeding on the living. The brick acted as a grotesque gag, preventing the corpse from chewing through its shroud or more terrifyingly biting survivors. What makes this discovery extraordinary isn't just the ritual itself, but the context. Venice in the late 1500s was a city choking on death. The plague killed nearly a third of its population, and mass graves overflowed. Yet even in this chaos, someone took pains to single out this woman for special treatment. Why? Her dental analysis revealed she'd survived malnutrition in childhood, leaving her with a distinctive overbite, perhaps making her jaw more noticeable when rigor mortis set in. Some scholars speculate she might have been a witch or outsider, her unusual appearance marking her for suspicion. Others argue she was simply one of many victims of a panicked ritual performed in secret, as the church officially denounced such superstitions. Modern science peels back the layers of this macabre puzzle. CT scans show no signs of violence before death. She wasn't murdered, just feared. Isotope testing traces her diet to the local region, dispelling myth she was a foreigner. Even the brick carries clues. Its composition matches masonry from a nearby demolished church, suggesting haste rather than ceremony. This wasn't a sanctioned burial rite, but an act of terror disguised as protection. The Vampire of Venice forces us to confront the intersection of disease and dread. In an age before germ theory, the plague's randomness bred supernatural explanations. A woman who might have been a healer in life became a monster in death, her treatment revealing more about the living's psychological torment than her own sins. Today, her reconstructed face gazes from museum displays, not as a villain but as a casualty of history's darkest fears. The brick remains lodged in history's throat, a silent scream from an era when death walked visible, and the line between corpse and predator blurred in the terrified minds of those left behind. High in the frozen embrace of the Himalayas, where the air thins and snow clings stubbornly to the peaks, lies a lake that holds not water alone, but secrets carved in bone. Roopkund Lake, a glacial tarn in India's Uttarakhand state, is better known as Skeleton Lake for the macabre spectacle that greets visitors when the ice melts each summer. Beneath the shimmering surface, over 200 skeletons lie scattered along the shoreline, their bones bleached white by centuries of sun and snow. But it's their posture that chills the blood. Many appear frozen mid-motion, limbs splayed as if caught in a dance when death struck. This isn't some ancient battlefield or mass grave in the traditional sense. Radiocarbon dating reveals these individuals perished around 850 AD, their deaths sudden and catastrophic. For decades, locals spun tales of a cursed king and queen who offended the mountain goddess Nanda Devi, calling down her wrath in the form of a deadly hailstorm. Folklore described hailstones hard as iron, pummeling the victims so fiercely their skulls caved in. Modern science lends eerie credence to the myth. Forensic analysis of the skulls shows distinct, deep fractures consistent with blows from large, rounded objects falling at tremendous speed. The hailstones of the Himalayas can reach the size of cricket balls, and for this unlucky group, escape was impossible. Trapped in the high-altitude basin with nowhere to hide, they danced their final, frantic steps under a barrage of ice, yet the mystery only deepens. Isotope studies on the bones reveal these weren't locals but pilgrims, or perhaps warriors from far-flung regions. Some show genetic links to present-day Iran, while others share ancestry with Southeast Asian populations. What brought such a diverse group to this treacherous pass? The lake lies along the route of the Nanda Devi Raj Jat, a centuries-old pilgrimage still undertaken every 12 years. Were they part of a religious procession caught in a freak storm, or a military escort, their mission erased by time? The lake's isolation adds to the enigma. At 16,000 feet above sea level, this is no casual feat. For reaching it requires days of arduous trekking through thin air and unpredictable weather. The dancing posture of the skeletons offers another clue. Unlike orderly burials, these bodies were never laid to rest. They fell where they stood, their bones later scattered by avalanches and shifting ice. Some appear to clutch their heads, a gut-wrenching snapshot of their final moments. Others lean into one another, as if huddling for protection that never came. A few were found with jewelry still clinging to their finger bones, simple copper bangles and rings, their wearers anonymous but for these quiet traces of identity. Perhaps the most haunting detail is the lake's indifference. Each year, the ice melts, the bones resurface, and the water reflects the sky as if nothing lies beneath. Rupkund doesn't whisper its secrets like other tombs. It howls them in the wind that rips across its surface, in the crunch of hail on stone, in the mute testimony of skeletons forever mid-step. The mountain remembers what history forgot, a single catastrophic afternoon when the sky turned violent and 200 lives became part of the landscape. Their story isn't carved in gold or guarded by curses. It's written in fractures and frost, waiting for those brave enough to listen. From the towering pyramids of Egypt to the cliffside sarcophagi of the Chachapoya, the tombs we've explored today aren't just resting places, they're mirrors. Each one reflects the values, fears, and dreams of the civilization that built it. Some, like Qin Shi Huang's mercury-laden necropolis, scream of a ruler's obsession with control, even in death. Others, like the tomb of the unknown soldier, speak to the quiet power of collective memory, honoring those whose names were lost to history. The Moch priestess with her spider tattoos and the wary queen surrounded by weavers remind us that power came in many forms, often defying the stereotypes we project onto the past. And then there are places like Rupkund Lake, where nature itself became the tomb, preserving a single catastrophic moment with chilling clarity. What ties them all together isn't just the question of how we bury our dead, but why we go to such lengths. These tombs were built to defy time, to send messages across centuries, whether through gold, stone, or the bones of sacrificial attendants. They reveal our oldest obsession, the refusal to be forgotten. The pharaohs stacked mountains of limestone to touch the heavens. The Mycenaean griffin warrior took his finest battle scenes with him, carved in agate finer than the eye could see. Even the doomed souls of Sapon and the vampire of Venice, brick clenched between her teeth, were part of this universal human story, a struggle to make sense of the darkness waiting for us all. So tell us which tomb lingered in your thoughts long after the screen went dark. Was it the Terracotta Army's silent vigil, or the eerie acoustics of the Hypogeum, where whispers become otherworldly echoes? Share your pick in the comments, and if these glimpses into the past left you hungry for more, don't forget to subscribe. History's mysteries are far from solved, and the next buried secret might be the one that changes everything we thought we knew. Until then, keep digging, because the past never stays buried for